Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. I'm Melanie Richmond. I'm your executive well-being coach. We are just waiting for our guest to show up today. It's Sharon Heno, and I just saw her pop in. So I'm going to get her into the broadcast.
Hello. I'm so sorry. Was it for one?
You're good. You're all good.
Maybe I'm sorry. A
Just
little
get
late.
it.
It's one of those days, right? But we just roll with it, right? That's what
And
we
you
do.
look gorgeous as always. So
Thank you. I will always chuckle. People say to my hair wash day is always a good day, right?
yeah, it's always a little bit of extra work day, but yeah.
Yes, but I woke up early to get it done, to show up and be here for you. So what are we going to
Yeah.
talk about today?
Yeah, so I thought today maybe we could talk a little bit more about your story because I know you had some big transformational changes in your life, and being a transformational coach, and you help people really find, that North Star, what their calling is, their purpose in life is, and going after it. So I'd love to hear more about kind of where you started that nine to five grind to like owning a big studio of counselors to like doing the work you do now. So I think our audience would really benefit from seeing where you started, what mindset shifts you had to overcome to get to where you are today.
So I thank you so much for having me here, and I kind of chuckle. I'm like, what version do you want? Which book? Because there are a lot. I actually was honored to be on a podcast this week was for someone else, Live Like Your Nail Color. And she's like, you're just like the comeback kid. And I am. Life happens and I roll with it. And I do think some of us, life just happens. We're called to stay in the valley and pop up on the mountaintops, maybe not as much as other people, I'm sometimes I've fallen into the trap of why is life so easy for them and why does this keep happening? And, we look at what we can do to take charge, and I guess I just roll with it. I embrace each season. The valleys teach tons of lessons in the mountaintops. So reason for saying that is my therapy practice came out of a deep, dark time in the valley, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a stroke survivor. I think I've shared that with you, Melanie.
Yeah.
Had a stroke at 26, and at the time I was a hairdresser and just living life in every way, wild child, right?
And that seems young for a stroke, hey?
So this was, I do have a heart condition. It's
Okay.
well managed, and I do great with it. I also, I'm gonna be honest, I was living life hard. It was a very glamorous life.
Everybody lives their 20s in various
I
ways.
have
Yeah.
friends that got married young and they lived their wild child later, or they did it then. I definitely, I lived the wild child for a lot of us. So that season of my life, I was, burning the candle at multiple ends. And by divine intervention, the scary part is a heart murmur. I was on birth control, and the clotting led to a blood clot passing and a massive cerebral lesion in the brain. Right. So fast forward, that left me with paralysis head to toe, in a wheelchair, told I would never walk again, progress beyond third grade level.
Wow.
And I'm going back that far because that was really my first time in hearing that. I never felt like they were talking about me. It wasn't even like, oh, why'd this happen? I was like, what are the doctors going to tell my parents? It's more like, and then they came out with their reason, and I was like, okay, but I was like, there's no way I'm not going to walk again. But what I will say is, after the period of time that I had to learn how to do everything again, and I did make miraculous recovery. And I will, I tell that story more in my community and go more in depth in that. But the transformation in new businesses, I had to recognize that coming back from the stroke, there were just certain things that I really could come back and do everything. I was just so gracious and blessed that the residuals diminished, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there were things I couldn't produce the volume. I couldn't perform the way I did before to make the living I was making. Right. And so at that point, and the desire for doing hair, the passion I had for it before just kind of went away. And it was alarming because I was like, oh my God, I love this. Why am I not loving it? Right? Why am I just, so I had to do some reflection and think about, now I went back to work. I was like 28, 29. I'm like, is this how it's going to be for the rest of my life? And watching my dad work in a job he absolutely hated his whole life, I was like, I am not going to work in a
Right.
career, not a job, but much less a career that I'm not enjoying. So I started thinking about what I enjoyed from the hairdressing and what I didn't enjoy. And it prompted me to go back and finish my undergrad, which I had drifted away from, in psychology. And I just fell fully in love with psychology, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
flourished. I finished with my bachelor's. I went on to graduate school. I went on to do my clinicals and came out and worked in the world and got hired by corporate. And I felt I had the dream job.
Right. I just want to
And
stop you there for a second because I
yes,
think like most females that get their hair done every whenever
I
5 to 8 weeks,
love, yeah.
like you probably see your hairdresser more than you see your therapist, right?
And yeah,
And you do have all of those deep conversations. So I can totally see how that one
yeah,
led to
and
the
it really,
next.
that was the main thing I liked
Yeah.
when I wrote my list of what do I love about hair?
Hmm.
Because really, and clearly I love hair. Like, I I I like
You love nice things.
I
Let's
like
be
nice
honest.
things. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna shy away from it. I like nice things. And, my idea of camping is the Holiday Inn. Yeah, I'm yeah, I'm not a
So you
outdoorsy.
can't come on one of my retreats then, hey?
I'm always like
Cabin life.
quiet, but I don't know that that would be a good fit, you know? But I do love retreats. Um, so yeah, so I had to take from that, what do I love and what do I not love? And then look at what my skills were,
Hmm.
because we get so caught up in building a resume and using what the learnings, the people is dictated, the jobs we've had in the past, right? But when you really strip all that away and go to the core, and this is where I could get on a soapbox. I know you said come in short and sweet, but I'm going to try. That's where, and what I work and teach with people, um, is we have one purpose, but we have many missions we live that purpose out. And
Hmm.
so my core purpose, which I have discovered, I probably got my messaging better, is to inspire, motivate, lead, and guide. And when I look at my life, I've done that, as a child in the games I played. I've done it in my first attempt at college in the Department of Education. I did it as a hairdresser. Think of
Hmm.
your hairdressers. They're motivating, they're inspiring. I mean, we do. They're like the rock stars that we can touch, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then, of course, then going back to school and in my counseling profession and now in my coaching. Now, my reason for bringing coaching is the world of counseling still has a very sick model and a
Hmm.
reaction. And
Reactive model.
yes,
Hmm.
and I really wanted to take a proactive model. So when I'm a trauma specialist, so when I took the individuals that had had these unbelievable traumas and we built them back up, they built themselves up. They rewrote their truths, that their traumas did not define them, their past did not. They found
Hmm.
their truth. Well, then they were like,
Now what?
now what? Right. And so
Right.
that's really what my curriculum part of my graduate program and working for corporate was developing um, curriculums for trauma, creating curriculum to bring trauma, groups into the schools. So that's really like my passion for writing curriculum, and this is a marriage. So fast forward, I had to, and sometimes life with physical, by financial, by relationships, forces us to have to think outside the box from what we're looking at in front of us, right? Like, and so I had to look at coming off the stroke. And like I said, there's a whole lot of information there, but I was like, I don't know that I can do this emotionally long term. I physically can't produce volume that I need to do. And so financially, right, I had to think. Now I chuckle. Still, as a hairdresser, made way more money than I've ever made in mental health, right? So the beauty industry is not going anywhere. But still, when I go back to like, I love being a client for the hairdressers, but I loved really connecting with people and having a moment to really listen,
Hmm.
bring out their superpowers. And that's really my gift and talent as I help people really find their superpowers.
Yeah, that's where we have a similarity too. I absolutely love helping people really shine their brightest. And I love what you said there also about like you knew that for the people you're helping in therapy, it was all about like rewriting their past, their traumas, recreating their truth of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And then that next piece of moving forward, because in medicine and society, like it's often like, yeah, feel better. Okay, now you're good. Go
Right. And
away.
then they
Right. So they
kick them
kind of leave
out,
you
right? They're
hanging.
done. And
Yeah.
like, if you get sick again, come get another pill, right? And
Yeah.
I'm
So
not getting on that soapbox. I'm not going to get on that soapbox.
and I know like on a previous live we talked about prosperity and like you have a program that's prosperity reimagined. So what does that mean to
Okay, so
you?
that's actually evolved. So
Oh, okay.
Prosperity Reimagined, I think that's somewhere on Facebook as my Facebook page. It is really Prosper to Prosperity. It's about getting off the hamster wheel. It's quieting the noise and removing the clutter and living very intentionally. My program is Prosperity by Design. And so in this, I help high achieving women develop a prosperous mindset. I help them unlock, I call it a divine potential, because when you look up the word divine, it is exceeding excellence, superseding excellence,
Hmm.
right? So if you remove the clutter and become laser focused, you grow in confidence, you grow in excellence in whatever it is you do, and then help them build their dream life, and their dream life by reclaiming their time, right? And working, living on their terms. Now, this does not mean, I've gotten some kickback, people like, oh, well, you say you're faith-based, God dictates, people have laws. I'm not talking about like, go rogue. When I talk about in the world of this, prosperity is one of those words that it means, if you look at Webster Dictionary, to have your means met abundantly. Right? So myself living in Haiti right now, to be prosperous probably looks quite different from me sitting here living in the United States as a woman talking to you,
Right.
right? And so that's the best way. But being prosperous is, if you are living any part of your life that is not written by you, you're not being prosperous. So if
Hmm.
you are doing something because someone said you should, if you are doing anything moving forward in your life because it was dictated by some outside force and not from the core of in you, you're not living a prosperous life. You're living a life by someone else.
Hmm.
Yeah, when it comes from in here, I know, Melanie, you might have a different belief system. I think we discovered that maybe, and it's fine. But for
Well,
me, this is when God comes in, or universe, or spirit, right?
yeah, it's really in alignment with like your heart center at True North, and I think it does follow similar to you. It's like it's inward driven, not
Yes.
externally driven, and you're not letting those external factors determine what does your dream life look like. You're defining it internally.
Right. And so
Hmm.
when I do that, and so the first part, I have a master class next week. The first thing we're doing, I start with the dream life first,
Hmm.
right? Because what happens lots of times as well, and I've been in this situation, Melanie, I'm sure you have, you get excited about a mission, a job. I call mission and jobs interchangeably career. You get excited about something, you run for it, you chase it because of what it offers. And then it doesn't really meet up with what your dream life,
Hmm.
right? You might not have time for family and friends. You might not, right? So I got out of hair so when I was a hairdresser, and then I was going to school, and then I was working an internship, and I became a single mother in the middle of all that.
Wow.
I literally, the only time I had with my child, to be fully disclosing, was when we slept at night. She slept with me till she was probably 12 years old, because that literally is the only time we had together. And I don't care what anybody says about it. That's what it was and what
Yeah.
we had. So for me, trying to find things that would give me more time. Well, guess what? Outside people said, go back to school, finish your degree, right? Degree, you'll get a better job. Well, it really wasn't. I thought hair is a great job. Cosmetology. There are so many great jobs out there that, whether
Yeah.
it's given by a 4-year degree or not, right? That's conversation for another day. Um, but it was what I should do. So then I went, and then I got offered something for graduate school. And I have no regrets. Like, I do believe all of that served a purpose. But guess what? In order to make a living, I might not have been behind the chair, but I was now in the chair. And I had to be in front of clients working really long hours because insurances do not pay us what people pay for hair and hairdressing fees. So now here I was again. Yes, I was done my internship, but I was working for corporate. I had a very small private practice because I wanted to work with people one-on-one. But now I was like, okay, I'm still working a 60, 70 hour week. I'm called to go on these trips to do these speaking engagements. And I still not see my child.
Right.
And that's when I started creating the model for my therapy practice. How could I create a practice that was all master level clinicians? So we wouldn't have to deal with the degree discrimination piece. We were all master level clinicians providing a service free of med management. And we could support each other. But the thing we do first is we schedule ourselves and our families first. And then
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
So that's how the practice came to be.
Yeah, I love that. And like from a lot of your story in life, it's always been about, assessing where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you want in your life? And then what needs to change, what boundaries you need to put in place, and then creating it for yourself and like really taking that leap. So that's amazing.
You may do this with clients. I know my first client, some people call it a strategy call. I probably call it everything. I'm like, let's get on a call. But it really is an audit. But it really is an audit because I work from 5 pillars with individuals and I take you through each pillar. Some you haven't even thought about. And I'm like, but if you don't think about all 5 of them consistently, you're going to wind up down the line. And granted, one of them might take more attention, but if you give too much attention and neglect one of the others, the foundation becomes unstable.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I do these, whatever you connect calls, whatever we want to call them, but it is to go in with a second set of eyes and ask the intuitive, intentional questions to have people really decide where they are, where they want to go, and where's the attention. And that's where really the blueprint in my program comes from.
Yeah, I have a group program coming up here to the end. And this week we talked about behavioral changes.
Okay.
And the first step was really talking about, are you aware of the issue?
You can't fix it if you're not aware.
No, and unless somebody asks you the question, which sometimes you can't come up by yourself, you need help from someone else, then you realize, oh, I have an issue here. And then that's the first step, that self-awareness. So then you can start planning and then taking the steps forward for change. So yeah, that's
coming on here and talking with people that teach the same thing, because that right there is a shift in mindset, which I think is positive for our generation and future generations. I'm giving my age away. I was raised in a very competitive, right? What do you mean you're going to go sit next to and get on with another coach that teaches mindset? Y'all are talking to the same audience. Like, yeah, but guess not. No one's delivering like Melanie and no one's delivering like Sharon. And so I do love, because I love seeing and hearing your approach. Tell me about, I'm going to turn into the interview. So tell me about your workshop that's wrapping up.
Yeah, so it's all about alignment leaders. So it was a 2-month program before I gave birth to my second child. And
did you give birth?
Sorry?
Did you give birth yet?
No. Okay. Baby's due November, so should be fairly soon.
You didn't tell me this. I was going to be a little upset. Okay.
I might not look like I do right now if I had.
Beautiful.
Anyway, so during this program, we really look at alignment, because at True North, we're all about living in alignment. So I talk about the body as an instrument. So no matter, like, if you look at yourself, your body, the vessel that you live in, if you are operating this clarinet and you're playing it and you're paying all this money and you're learning all of the clarinet skills, all the songs, but it's out of tune, it's not going to sound nice for yourself or for anybody else out there. So really, like, that's the simple metaphor of the program. It's like really aligning yourself,
all areas of yourself,
in all areas of yourself, with what you really want, your true north, that great big dream for you. You talk about prosperity, and then creating the life around that by establishing those boundaries. Where do you not hold those boundaries for yourself in that space. And we really talk about that mindset shift of, what are your limiting beliefs? Well, what do you need to overcome for yourself? And then growing into the mindfulness component, because all of us are humans. We're never going to be perfect. We're going to fall back to our old habits, but it's really about establishing, when are you off course? When are you drifting off of that mission, however you want to call it? And how can you get yourself back in line?
So back in your lane.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's the behavior and the roadmap.
Off the track.
And there's a lot of maintenance work that has to happen. Like once you've done the shifts, it's sometimes easy to get to the goal, the initial goal, but then you have to set new goals for yourself and keep growing. And
that's it. Yeah. If you don't, because it's, and whether you get the visual of a garden or a plant, if you sow seeds in the garden, now granted, I've been kind of lucky. Sometimes the less I do with it, the better it does, right? But then there is a season that the weeds will come up and start choking that beautiful. So even if it's not a weekly thing, they still need attention. And so anything you want to grow in your life has a sowing and a pruning season before you can reap the benefits. And I think that gets people off track most, particularly with so much social media out there, right? Because everybody is promising these promises of overnight success. And I can tell you, most of them, I think probably all of them might have had a successful outreach or program, but they had years, months to prepare for it, right? It rarely, but they don't put that in there. Right?
And one thing I often talk about is, if you want massive transformation within yourself, you often have to empty yourself. Like you have to let go of so much and recreate it into something new. Otherwise, you're filling yourself up with more, and it's not going to allow you to change.
Basically a vessel, right? Yeah. And so as a vessel, and I do this in my therapy, like if you're putting stuff in, but there's no room, it's going to just fall out, and not always fall out where it's needed, wanted, right? Like water, and I live in New Orleans, we have lots of water and we have levees and, and it's like, if we don't do something, we have to open different channels and do different things to pump it out. But if nothing happens, it just keeps coming up. And then we wind up with abundance of water in places that we don't want it. Same thing happens for us. So I do exercises, I'm sure similar to yours, that are mind dumping. I speak full surrender because I work with, from a God perspective, is complete surrender to him. But I don't speak to that in a way that it's surrender and I'm just not going to do anything and let him show up. And right, he calls us to take action, right? He wants us to do, but he wants us to do with him. It's I'm going to do this with you. The other thing is, what are you feeling? And that's what I think we clear the vessels, or help people clear the vessels, is if you are filling yourself up with things that actually drain you, with no refilling, it's depleting, right? You're not living that purpose and intentional life. It's just draining and depleting. There are seasons that require more energy and maybe things that we don't love, but overall there is a reward. For example, Melanie, now you might love being pregnant. I did not love being pregnant. No. I just was not.
It's very energy draining for sure.
But I will tell you, and for what they say is 9 months, actually 10 months. And for me, 2 weeks, I was like, it was, I was very sick. I had to wear IVs. It was draining. But I will tell you, I sneezed and birthed this child. It was the easiest delivery. And looking at that beautiful face gave everything I had given out back in that moment. We don't know, but that's where constant assessment. We have to go in and look at what is, and it's not selfish. A lot of people take that as selfish.
Yeah.
Well, you don't always give to receive. Well, no, we don't all give to receive, but in a way, it's what keeps things flowing. What keeps the energy flowing.
So I have one last question for you before we wrap up, Sharon. And I love hearing you talk because we
Yeah,
have
I
so many
just go on and on. So
similarities.
tell me
We
be
just,
quiet.
no, because a lot of what we talked about, like I've done so many different lives on the different seasons and like the whole vessel in the body. So I love to see those similarities, but you speak to it in a different way, like you mentioned earlier. So if somebody is wanting their dream life, like if they feel like they're not living it today, could they be living it today? Is that something that you believe
Oh,
in?
I think absolutely.
Okay. And what would be involved there? How?
First step, I think the first step they need to do is be willing to sit with quiet.
Mhm.
Get a notebook and a journal and sit in a quiet space that you've established that is just for you, free of family, pets, everything else, just a quiet space to sit and listen and see what comes through in that guide. And ask yourself, what do you really want? And you may have to ask that a couple times because the way you're going to want to ask at first, or ways you're going to want to answer at first, are ways you think you should or are supposed to.
Yeah.
But without limits is what I want you to write down.
Mhm.
Without limits, without any financial. If you woke up tomorrow in time, money, family, nothing was an issue, you could live any life you wanted tomorrow, what would that look like?
Mhm. And I love hearing it from you, Sharon, because also like I look at different generations. Like I think with the millennials, like my generation, there's a lot more of that. People wanting to live their dream life
Y'all are
today.
much more about quality. You
Yeah,
know,
a lot more
so
quality.
tired of hearing my generation about we can't find people that work. I'm like, well, no, I have great people that work and they're millennials, but guess what? I can't necessarily offer them more money, but I can offer them time freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just goes to show also like with the boomer generation, it was all about okay, retiring early, right? Like I'll be doing this when I retire. So it's always pushing it out versus living that dream life today. And what
We'll
does
have
that
to come
actually
back and talk
mean?
about retirement. I don't believe
Yeah.
in retirement.
No, but I'm just talking about like something
Right.
that's
No, I
pushing it
know.
out, right?
What am I? I had to look it up. I'm not a baby boomer. I'm a Gen X.
Right.
And I honestly don't know what we think or believe or live.
It doesn't really matter in the end, hey?
Really, I think we just produced the millennials that decided what y'all were doing, we're not doing anymore.
Yeah. I believe in that answer as well. I think that anyone that wants to live their dream life can start today.
Yeah.
And I do think you do need to create that space for yourself, that self-reflection to really get crystal clear by asking yourself those questions over and over again about what that looks like and what really matters because it's often not the material, right? It's really comes
No.
down to
Well, that's it. I mean, I know because we said when I first came on, I like nice things, but it's so funny. My desire, I like really nice things, but I don't like stuff and I don't like clutter.
right.
So those nice things can be clutter and stuff. And so I really just in this season of my life, I mean, I look at like what I spent on shopping in the past and I'm like, what did I buy? Like what? Now it's like, I'm like, okay, friends, what do friends like to do? Go have lunch and go shopping. They're like, oh, you need this. I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think so. It's cute. It's pretty. It's nice. But so it's just, I feel like our wants and desires because my time, my travel to New York to be with my girl, those things take priority. And when you really hone in and identify your priority, your finances realign to be in touch. Everything
Everything.
just
Yeah.
aligns and gets in tune with that. I don't know if you're open, Melanie, but I do have a master class next week. I'd love to share it with you, and you can.
Yeah, why don't you talk to our audience about that? How people can reach you and if they want to jump on your masterclass.
Okay, so my master class is running like a whole. I think it's like 5 days, and I have bonus sessions. You can watch it live and replay. It's called Prosperity by Design. Where I'm speaking to a group, you will be able to take tools and apply it to your own life to really start defining that. We're going to define the dream life, get rid of negative thinking, ruminating thinking, blocking thinking, and create a mindset for growth. We're going to really learn to hear what that calling, what that inner, when it's because lots of times we try to quiet it and wait, you want me to do what? No, that doesn't make sense right now, right? We're going to learn how to really tune in. Overcoming and really setting the blue path. I mean, we have vision vision casting, what the dream killers are, how to remove those. So it's just a lot of good information. We're going to have fun. I have a registration link that I'll share with you.
Okay.
You can also join my Facebook group, which is Purpose to Prosperity. I'm on Facebook, Sharon Heno, on Instagram, sheno26, and I'm on LinkedIn, Sharon Heno. So all kind of ways to find me. I even have a website, Sharon Heno Coaching, but the registration is all over this. And Melanie, I'll share it with you, but we're going to come together. I would love for you to come pop in and see what you
No, that sounds great. I think that will be really beneficial for anyone that wants to join the masterclass, and it's free. Is that correct?
Great. Totally free.
Awesome.
So,
And then you would get so much information in really asking those right questions and aligning yourself with that dream life so you can start living it today. So that falls nicely into our chat today. Thanks so much for coming on.
Sorry if I was running a few minutes late, you know.
You were right on time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, well, have yourself a great afternoon. Thanks everybody for joining us. If you're catching the replay, just drop replay in the comments. If there's any comments you want to reach out to Sharon, we're going to drop that as well, her links for connecting. And as always, nice to see you all. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.